I'm going to give a 30-second warning to take our seats, and we'll get started this evening. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Gilbert Town Council meeting for February 7th, 2023. I would like to start with calling this meeting to order, and our invocation will be led by Rabbi David Roller of the Shabbat Jewish Center of Gilbert. If you could come down to the podium, please, Rabbi. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Eternal God, without whom life has no spiritual source, no divine meaning, purpose, or destiny, but with whom there is a power for the present and hope for the future, refresh our faith that the strains of life may not break our spirits. Restore our confidence that our world is undergirded by eternal purpose. Bless those who give service of heart to this great town. Give them strength to temper their judgments by the compassion of the human soul. Know that none are free until all are free, free from fear, want, bigotry, and callous hatred of the other. Let the courage of their convictions make Gilbert worthy of her past and blessed by her future. May God bless you and keep you. May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's presence be with you and give you the gift of peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. We appreciate you taking time to come down and offer an invocation this evening. Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Bongiovanni. I want to start getting in the habit to ask everyone to please silence their cell phones too, please. And next, we will have a roll call by our Town Clerk Herrera.
Mayor Peterson,
Present.
Vice Mayor Kathy Tilkey,
Here.
Councilmember Scott Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Chuck Bongiovanni,
Here.
Councilmember Bobby Buckley, Councilmember Jan Kaprowski,
Here.
and Councilmember Jim Torgerson.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Clerk Herrera. Now we will move on to communications from citizens, since we don't have any proclamations and presentations this evening, and I will pass that to our Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to read a statement before we call our citizens up to speak. The Gilbert Town Council values citizens' comments and input. Anyone wishing to speak before the council must fill out a request to speak card for each item they wish to speak on and submit it to the town clerk or place it in the bin prior to the start of the meeting. The communications from citizens portion on the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concern related to town government that are not on the printed agenda. Under the provisions of the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. At the conclusion of the open call to public, response is limited to individual members of the council responding to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, asking staff to review a matter, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. The town asks that when your name is called, you come forward to the podium, state your name and the place of residence, and then begin speaking. All speakers are expected to observe common standards of decorum and courtesy. Personal attacks, political speeches, or threats of political action are inappropriate in this forum and will be grounds at the discretion of the mayor for ending a speaker's time at the podium. So at this time, we have two citizens who'd like to speak. First up is Terry Natty, and then following will be Rich Robertson. Terry? And if you just give your name and place of residence.
Hello, can you hear me? Does that work? Hi, my name is Terry Natty. I live in a county island within the Gilbert planning area. And y'all have seen me since just after Mother's Day of last year. I have been asking and begging and pleading, and I was extremely, extremely happy to see that there's something for a possible future meeting on this subject. So I thank you for hearing me, first of all. I am not an engineer. I am logical, probably to a fault, but I'm not an engineer. But yet I've managed to accumulate a bunch of research on roads and widths and sidewalks and angles and safety and all kinds of fun stuff. When town staff presented our project to you in August, you were shown what the project would look like at 55 feet, at 60 feet, and at 65 feet. There was no creativity. There were no angles. I think back to WW 1060 and the creativity that you were shown to come up with a solution that worked best for everyone, not just the people making the drawings. Anyone can draw a straight line. That's easy. Anyone can do that. Anyone can put in trees, which, by the way, I have people that are neighbors that ride horses. Once trees get big, nobody's going to use that multi-use trail to ride a horse. They'll be afraid of being knocked off. It's just silliness. That's one thing that you guys can cut from the plan. I have a lot of ideas. I just want to be heard. I don't want to, Mr. Payne and my lawyers to have to hash this out. I want to do it like reasonable adults. So please, if you can't speak to me because of the lawsuit, then I will give all of my research to any neighbor and prep them and have a logical conversation about this, and we can find something that works for everyone. I know we can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Natty. Next up is Rich Robertson, and you do have 3 minutes once you're here. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My name is Rich Robertson. I'm a resident of 15714 East Ocotillo. I'd like to address an agenda item. It's under the future meeting agenda item. So it appears that you're going to be asked tonight to consider whether to have some future meeting at which to reconsider possibly the widening of Ocotillo Road. I'm asking you to support that request because, as Terry said, we don't believe that the other options have been given any kind of legitimate consideration, and we'd like to see that done. Last year, because of our complaints, the council instructed staff to look at design options. We were not consulted in that process. Instead, the staff reported back directly to the council that after considering those various options, the only viable one was the one that they started with, the one that they had already chosen. Staff presented their opinions to the council in individual meetings with each of you that were on the council at the time. None of the residents were included in any of that process. That was followed by an executive session. Obviously, we don't know what went on in the executive session, but there was no public discussion after that or any vote taken of any kind that we're aware of. We learned only about the evaluation of the options when the staff scheduled a series of meetings to which they invited a few residents at a time. They split us up, and they told us how things were going to be. This was not a discussion. They made sure that there were more staff present at those meetings than there were residents in every one of those meetings. We were told that they were doing us a favor by limiting it to 65 feet when they could have taken 75 feet if they wanted. They followed that up by having individual meetings with us on each of our properties. They told us they would do us a favor by constructing sound walls to block the noise of all this increased traffic that will occur. But, and to give you an idea of how this has been going, they said they would not build that wall if we dared to take the town to court. That was the leverage. There was one public meeting about this project at the very beginning, and we were invited to fill out cards. Since then, there has been no meaningful dialogue about the design options. This has been a one-way street. I'm asking that you agree to revisit this project so there can be some kind of constructive interchange that not only considers the engineering, but also the neighborhood preservation and quality of life issues in Gilbert. We're asking just to be listened to, not bulldozed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. That is the end of our communications from citizens.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next, we will move on to the consent calendar, and I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have 2 items that will be pulled from the consent agenda, item number 2 and item number 10. And with that, I can make the motion, can I? I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent items number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11.
Can I have a second? I'll second that. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Tilke, a second by Councilmember Bongiovanni. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2 has been pulled by Councilmember Bongiovanni.
Thank you. I want to start by saying I'm not against termination of this lease, but there's certain things in the agreement, and I have some suggestions for future contracts for the council. When I looked at the agreement, it was very well written. Staff was very detailed in protecting our best interests, except I didn't see a penalty for non-performance. And I understand that sometimes those are included in our agreements. We spent 5 years of staff time, council time, suffered some community relationship damage when we added go-karts to the project. But in the end, we are left alone at the altar without a partner. So I would ask council in the future to consider consistently adding vehicles like surety bonds or insurance policies to compensate us for non-performance and consequence developers who find themselves over their heads. And that's it. Thank you.
Were you going to take that?
Any other comments on that? Would someone like to make a motion on item number 2?
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
A motion by Vice Mayor Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Torgerson. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Mayor, item number 10 has been pulled by Councilmember Torgerson.
I put this forward to Dan Henderson earlier today. I want to understand why equity is part of the description of the Community Development Block Grant Fund we're using. Is anybody able to help explain that to me?
Jason, can you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
We'll try that again. Mayor, Councilmember Torgerson, my name is Jason Hafner. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager. The RAISE grant, as far as the equity part goes, from the town's perspective, we're looking at safety and accessibility for all users of our transportation network. For this project that we're applying for in particular, we're trying to create a safe way for all users in the town to get over the railroad.
So in the common use of this, at this point, it has nothing to do with anything but, and everybody being invested and be able to cross, not any other interpretation of the term, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have an add-on question for that. Jason, could you talk about when federal funds are pursued, like the federal 40, and how that may increase the chances that this project would get funded? Are you familiar with the federal 40 analysis?
Mayor, council member, I am not familiar with the federal 40. I
Okay.
apologize.
It's an equity analysis that the federal government does, and they have certain set-asides for additional funding in those areas. The Heritage District area is the only location in Gilbert that falls within that category. So I feel that this particular project and location would be a good candidate for these funds.
Well, in respect to that, it absolutely is the right place to have that. And having sat on that committee years ago for a long time and now being entrusted to be the liaison to it, it does, as a redevelopment zone, completely qualify for that. My concern was just the use of that term and what maybe the strings involved attached are. And it doesn't seem like there are any, but if there are, please explain them.
Mayor, council member, as far as I understand, there are no additional strings attached based on the word equity being in the RAISE grant acronym.
Thanks, Jason, for that explanation. Would anyone like to make a motion on item 10?
I move to approve item 10.
Can I have a,
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Torgerson, seconded by Vice Mayor Tilke. Please vote. I can see when you're voting before I even get through the motion. It's funny. It's like, it lights up on the screen. Motion passes 7-0. This is, it's all new technology, so it's new stuff. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll move on to our public hearing portion of our agenda this evening. I will open the public hearing. We have 2 items, 1 liquor license and 1 Code of Gilbert update. Does anyone wish discussion or presentation on either one of those? Or I would entertain a motion to approve both.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mayor Peterson, can you please close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing. I have a motion by Councilmember Bongiovanni, second by Vice Mayor Tilke. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to administrative items this evening, boards, commissions, and committees. Do I have any reports from council liaisons? Looking down both sides, I see none. Item number 15, council administration. These are a little out of order, and Chiavelli made me aware of that. Consider acceptance of the budget report and contingency report for the second quarter of FY 2023. Does anyone, yes, Vice Mayor?
Mayor, I've asked Kelly to give just a brief presentation. I think it's really important that our residents understand the transparency of how we handle our overages when cost escalations happen and things like that. So, thank you, Kelly.
Vice Mayor. I was going to look right at you because I knew you would have asked Kelly for this. Thanks, Kelly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So as you'll notice, we have the quarterly budget and contingency report. That is part of our financial transparency and our policies, and you'll see that every quarter as you're on council. The contingency report, if you'll remember when we talked through the policies, council approves everything over $50,000 of contingency. We don't have extra money or what-if money in any of the department budgets. It's just what they're going to need to provide services. So when unexpected things come up, there is the ability to approve some contingency at my level or Patrick's level, and then we provide a report to council so that you can see what all of those items are, and that's the report that's before you tonight. And then we also provide a list of what that contingency adds up to throughout the year, so you have historical context about what that looks like departments using more or less throughout the year, and you have the opportunity to ask questions, or the public has opportunity to ask questions about those changes in the budget. Any questions for me?
Councilmember Anderson?
Kelly, are we finding that we have more reasons for contingency because of inflation problems and supply chain problems that are delaying things?
Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, yes, we are seeing a higher use of contingency this year and last year even. A lot of them are related to supply chain or cost increases that weren't built into the base budget because we didn't anticipate this level of inflation when we built the budgets.
Are we thinking about that for budget purposes next year?
Yes, we are. Our zero base has added in money to be able to maintain the same level of service, which is unusual for our zero base. And then you'll get that information. Spoiler alert, you'll get that information when you hear the budget in a couple of months. And then the other departments not part of zero base have also seen an increase in requests for maintaining just that same level of service for contracts that are costing more than they used to, or other supplies.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Vice Mayor?
If I could just say thank you, Kelly, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. I would accept a motion to accept the budget report and contingency report for the second quarter.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Councilmember Buckley, you need to vote, please. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to our communications, report from Town Manager on current events.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing? Wow. Report from the council on current events. Wow. Okay, it's all on me. Report from the mayor on current events. First, I want to talk about the fact that we have a Gilbert Feeding Families food drive that has started and will run most of the month of February up until February 26th. For more information, please visit gilbertaz.gov/feeding families, and there it is on the screen. You can even use that QR code right there. Look at how prepared you are. I'm just so impressed. Thank you. The code on the screen there, if you would like more information as to where and what to donate. And there's also an option for financial donations, cash donations, and that's very helpful too. The next thing that I wanted to discuss is something that's very important to not only the town of Gilbert, but also other cities and towns in the state of Arizona. Tomorrow morning, I will be headed down to the Senate to testify against a bill that is number SB 1117. It's a housing infrastructure bill by Senator Kaiser. The legislation will have long-lasting and adverse impacts to years of careful planning for our cities and towns. It is essentially a by-right zoning for multifamily projects within all of our communities within the state of Arizona. It would also affect single-family residential to the point that nothing would be larger than a 4,000 square foot lot in all of our neighborhoods that we would develop in the future of our city. And since we do have land that we will still be building out, I think it's essential for us to come together and make sure that we are opposing this bill. If anybody would like information, please reach out to us. We have the names that you can contact. Again, I will be headed down there tomorrow morning. I think I can say safely that this bill will change the landscape of our state over the future. And luckily, Gilbert is close to being built out, but there are a lot of cities around this state that are not close to being built out, and this would definitely affect them. And when we're looking at even our water issue and how this would affect the need for water in their communities long into the future of this state. A lot of us have worked very long and hard on planning our communities, doing our general plan updates when we're supposed to, making sure we're developing our communities the way that we would like to. And I think it's essential that we all stand together on this. Then so I'm going to take us from something super serious to something super fun. Today is my aide Kirsten's 1-year anniversary with the town of Gilbert, and I want to give her a shout out because she does amazing things for me and for this community, and I bought her candy, so I think that's a good gift. And then a week from today is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone, and meeting adjourned.